I'm joined now by phone with Michael Boyd in Denver, Colorado. He's an aviation expert and chairman of Boyd Group International. Michael, are you there on the line with us?
I'm on the line. Yes, ma'am.
Thanks for joining us. My first question to you is, based on what you've seen so far and the reports you've heard on television, what is your best guess on what happened here?
Well, very clearly, the airplane came in too low and missed the runway, hit the seawall, and then the airplane started to disintegrate. Why it was coming in too low, we won't know, but the NTSB will probably know in the next 48 hours of all the magic they can do with these kinds of things. So I think it's one of those things that it happens. But remember, this is only the third incident with a Boeing 777 in the last 20 years.
Well, I was going to ask you about this particular type of aircraft. Is it considered pretty safe?
Well, as safe as it can get. Prior to this, there was one incident with British Airways where an airplane lost power landing, and then there was another one where there was a fire in the cockpit in Cairo. But that was it. There just haven't been many accidents with this airplane. This particular airplane has been in service since July of 2006, so it's not a new airplane, but it certainly isn't an aging one either.
Michael, what do you know about Asiana Airlines and its safety record?
To my knowledge, they're among the best. They have a very good reputation for service, a very good reputation for safety. So we have to remember we're dealing with humans and we're dealing with machinery, and that can lead to mistakes sometimes, or machinery can fail, which clearly happened today.
Well, is San Francisco International Airport considered a tricky airport? Is it a weird way for pilots to land?
Not certainly not with the way the weather was today. It's an overwater. They come in over the bay. There's no obstructions to the approach. So the airport itself doesn't have a problem. I think what we had here is just an equipment problem with that airplane.
I want to get your thoughts on the people on board this aircraft. Obviously, there have been several survivors, but there's still this number being talked about, at least 60 people unaccounted for. What does that mean?
I think if they're unaccounted for, it's probably in the confusion, because it's very obvious that the flight attendants on that airplane got people off as rapidly as possible, with as least human damage as possible. But keep in mind, those slides, and I've used them, those slides are designed to get you off the airplane, not for comfort. And in an event like this, you're going to have people hurt as they get off that airplane. That's going to be normal.
So we're seeing a lot of these people being brought through, the survivors anyway, the ones that are not being taken to the hospital. What is happening to them at this point? Are they being reunited with family? Are investigators speaking with them to find out what happened? What's the process here?
Well, you're going to have them very closely monitored. I guarantee that Asiana Airlines, as professional as they are, they have a plan that went into effect probably before that airplane stopped on the runway, in terms of dealing with customers, dealing with families, a whole teams of people coming in from Seoul to handle things. I would suspect you're going to have those people handled very well.
Are you surprised by the number of people that have seemed to have survived this plane, just looking at these pictures, looking at the damage to this airplane?
Yeah, keep in mind, we're talking probably an inch here, an inch there between something that could have been much worse if the airplane had been, say, 3 feet lower when it hit the seawall. It could have disintegrated completely. But yeah, I'm not surprised in the sense that you have a professional flight crew who was trained immediately without thinking to go into action to get people off that airplane.
And last question, is it surprising that perhaps there wasn't any sort of Mayday calls or calls for help? We're hearing various reports that the pilot never radioed for any sort of distress.
There probably wasn't any distress. He probably found that he was too low, the airplane was sinking too fast. And when that happens, he's fighting the airplane. He didn't want to get on the radio. But, you got to be very careful with eyewitnesses who say this or say that. Wait until the NTSB comes out. But probably in the last minutes of that flight, the pilot was not concerned too much with calling out a mayday, because that wouldn't have done anything. He's trying to save the airplane.
All right. Michael Boyd joining us live from Denver, Colorado. We appreciate your insight and your perspective.